Hello again! So last video I added some enemies and covered paths for our game. And in this video I'm going to be continuing those hazards by adding some spikes. And also a game over screen that's a little better than just restarting the game. Alright, so there's only been one change made since last time, which is that instead of making these all the parent making these all be the parent of or the child object, I should say, of the O enemy, I've added a new object, the O hazard parent, which just sort of is the parent over all three of these objects. And then I've changed the collision with the O hazard parent. This will make it a little easier in case we want to add other enemies or things that don't follow a path or that don't have a create event. Because if a child object did not have a create event, it would just follow the same path. And this way we just have a lot more individual objects while they still register for the same collisions. Alright, so basically the game plays the exact same as last time. And I'm going to add one thing, which is spikes. And so what these are going to be is they're just going to be some hazards. And I'm going to make them have the hazard parent. So there we go, we've just added some bottom spikes. And these are I just call them bottom spikes because they are on the bottom of the rectangular sort of thing. So we can just add some of these. I'm just going to put these some places. And let's put some up here. How about? So now if we run the game, we'll see that there are now spikes everywhere. Well, not really everywhere, but we can run into these spikes and they will restart the game. And I still don't understand why it's doing that. I'm just going to stop making this debug mode. But yeah, the spikes are now fully functional, and you can just sort of try to weave around them to get your pellets. Makes it a little harder. So yeah, that's just how to make a basic new hazard. And so we got these spikes here. We can't touch them. It makes the game a little more challenging, but we still just sort of warp back to the center. It's kind of awkward, doesn't look that good. So what I've also added since last time is a completely empty blank object called O game over. And basically what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to add a very quick game over sequence. So instead of making O hazard parent just restart the game, I'm going to set them to instance create 0, 0, or the upper right or the upper left corner of the screen, O game over. So what this is going to do is it's going to create an object that will basically start a game over sequence. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set it to create, and let's run some code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say alarm 0 equals 120, and then under alarm 0 we will say game start. So what this is going to do is that in essence the O red ball will create this object, which will set an alarm for 2 seconds later, and then 2 seconds later the game will restart as intended. So all this is done so far is add a delay. So we want to actually make some sort of nice screen, or at least something that tells the player what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do draw rectangle, and this is just another draw function, and of course I put in the draw event because that's the only thing that you can put draw things in. And I'm going to set it to 0, 0, room width, room height. So basically it's just going to be a giant rectangle that covers the whole area. And I'm going to set the color, little typo there, to black. And so what we can do now is we can just run this, and we can run to a hazard, and I need to stop doing that debug mode. But if we run to a hazard, I just realized I made a mistake, which is we need to set this to quite a negative depth so that it draws. Basically what the depth will do is it'll make it draw over all the other objects, just sort of covering everything. So now if we go into the spikes, you'll see that the screen goes black, and about 2 seconds later, I really need to stop getting that to pop into the front like that. But you'll see that it will just turn black, and then 2 seconds later it'll restart. And so that already is okay. It looks decent, I guess. But we can do better than that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to set the color to white. And we've already set the font for text in the player's object because it's constantly drawing the text above it, which is your score. And I'm going to say draw text transformed, which is a extension of the draw text function. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically set this. I'm just going to estimate that I'll draw it at about 100, and then I'll say it'll draw the text game over, and then it will draw that at 8 times the size of its normal text. And then angle I'm just going to set to 0 because I don't want it to be rotated. So what we can do now is that you'll see, and I hope I didn't really mess this up in terms of you'll see that it does game over, and that sort of went off the screen a little. So what we can do now is we can just move that back over. So I'm just going to move it like a little less in terms of X. And then also you may have noticed that it was pretty blurry. So this is actually a global game setting, and if I set it to Windows, it's in graphics. You can just turn off the interpolate colors between pixels. That's almost never useful. It basically just automatically blurs together the colors in your game. And it's not noticeable because I have just very single pixel graphics here. But as you can see, it now draws this nice clean game over text and then restarts. And really, this is really annoying. I'm just gonna need to stop that. So I'm just gonna center the text one more time. So let's just see if we can get it a little lower. Let's say 160. And you know what would be nice if we had it as C red. That might look pretty cool. So that's all I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna set this to red, and you can see we can run into the spikes and make this red game over text. So basically, I've just used a object to sort of make a sequence of events. So instead of just doing this awkward restart, which was in the ball object, and we could have done the same thing in the ball object, but it would have used a lot of variables and precise alarms to do things. We would have needed to turn off all other ball scripts and code. This is a lot nicer. We can basically just create an object that will trigger the game over sequence, and it'll just do so. So yeah. I'm going to do one more thing, which it's just sort of for the sake of making this look okay, or look better. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make the text look a little cooler. So I'm going to set this back up just a little bit, and this is just going to make it so that the text is sort of white and red at the same time, which I think will look pretty cool. Alright. So yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for today, and I really just want this to stop. Okay. So, again, that's really all I'm going to cover today. We basically made a playable game. There's hazards to avoid, but pellets to collect. And you've got a goal. It's pretty simple, but it's playable. And that's really all that matters right now. So I don't know if I'll be covering this. I'll be talking about this project anymore. This has sort of been an introductory project just to working in GameMaker. Next I'm just gonna see. I'm basically just gonna decide on a new type of project to work on and show you guys how to do in GameMaker. But for now, I think this is goodbye for this project. Again, as I did last video, I'm going to be posting the exe and GameMaker Studio code file in the description for download. So you can play around with this as you like. But yeah, so that'll be it for this project and this video. So I'm just going to close this, and see you next time, YouTube.